We got a lot of depth. The guys are going to be competing. It's going to go into fall camp, but definitely feel really good about the running back room right now with the depth that we have and the guys that can play. Again, I think we can show up today and play a game right now with the guys we have, and that's without Blake and Donovan. So those are two of the best players on the team, two of the best players in the country. So I think we're in a really good situation in the running back room.
Mike Hart after the spring game on Saturday. Welcome in, Maize and Blue Review. Good afternoon, Michigan football here on this Monday. And we're ready to get things underway, talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And it has a lot to do with what transpired at the Big House on Saturday at 3 o'clock in the annual spring game. We'll be getting to that. We will also talk about the moves that have happened with the basketball team. But the bulk of this show today is going to be dedicated to the football program and what they did on Saturday and how everybody looked. And I get your reaction and your feedback on your takeaways from the spring game. I was trying to navigate, wow, maybe I just go player by player. Maybe I go unit by unit, just give my thoughts off the top of my head, all of those things. I put 5 players down that I want to talk about today that stood out the most to me from what I was looking at on Saturday, and I'll go through them one at a time, and I'll have some video with one of the players that I'll play for your enjoyment out there. But my biggest takeaway after rewatching most of the game yesterday and then watching it as it took place on Saturday is that, Michigan football right now is top shelf. They've really, and this is a hard thing to do, they've got it right where you want it. All the different levers are in the right spot. It's so difficult. And we know just at Michigan, just look over the last, 10, 15, 20 years and just how difficult it is. But Michigan football, we knew this before Saturday, but then you watch them on Saturday and you're reminded that Jim Harbaugh has this thing rolling. And, the position that the program is in is fantastic. It is in a great position. And there's a whole ton of things to like. There are a lot of players out there you look at, you're like, wow, man, this is impressive. But a lot of football players out there and to talk about, and a lot of talent. But, Michigan was in a great position last year and they took advantage of it. They went through and, they really had a great year. I mean, they went undefeated and, beat Ohio State and then won the Big Ten and made it to the college football playoff. They're in great position to get right back there and do better this upcoming season. That's the spot that they're in. And Saturday, there was nothing for me to be like, Michigan, I'm not really sure that, they're all the off-season hype, is just, everything is, I think off-season hype for this football team. I don't know if a hype, if you expect the team to go out there and win all the regular season games, I think they'll be favored in all of their regular season games. So talking about them winning all 12 is not, going overboard or being hyped. Winning the Big Ten, like if they can win all 12, they beat Ohio State. The East always beats the West. So yeah, winning the Big Ten again for 3 years in a row. That's very doable for this team. That's not, thinking about, selling anybody short. That's I think the goal. I think we all get that. That's not overhyping them. And then getting back to the college football playoff, we don't know what kind of matchup they're going to get. Like 2 years ago, that was a real tough Georgia team. And I don't think Michigan was going to beat that team too many times. They played them 10 times. And then yet last year with TCU, I think Michigan would have beat TCU 6 or 7 times if they played him 10 times. But on that particular Friday, New Year's Eve, TCU came up with that 30% 20-30% a chance and cashed in on it with the way that they played. All of that, those are the things that but it's a reminder of just where the football program is at and how things are going that is a good thing. So, without further ado, let's go through some of the things that jumped out to me. I've got 5 players, and the first one that I'll start with is a sophomore edge, and that is a big Derrick Moore. Derrick Moore wears number 8. They had some statistics that they took during the game, and they credited Derrick Moore with 7 tackles, and he had 2 TFLs, but he had a lot of other stuff going on. He looked really good out there. Now, Derrick Moore, when you saw him in high school, and he committed like at the tail end of everything, but you're watching the film on him, and the guy looked like he looked like an NFL player in college. And I know a lot of the great ones, do, not all of them, but he did. That was something that surely jumped out to everyone, just on the look test. Moore looked like a pro player, certainly a Big Ten player, defensive end, edge player, right out of high school. And then last year, it was the same thing. It's like, oh, look at number 8. I remember at the spring game, he was in for spring last year. I'm looking at him, and if you've told somebody they didn't know anything about the roster, they'd be like, yeah, there's a 5th-year senior defensive end for you. No, that's a true freshman that's in for spring. And then he went out there and he flashed. He looked good. There's some video I have that accompanies Derrick Moore. And why not? Let's go to that video right now. It's 2 plays, really, in the spring game that I have of Derrick Moore. You'll see him down at the bottom of the screen. I think this is a miss. The offensive line, they just allow him to get into the backfield. He just almost takes the hand off and was able to throw the running back down. Now, 79 and the true freshman Amir Herring was in there. I don't know if Piercy thought that he was handing him off or whatever was going on there, but Moore just spilled into the backfield and made a play. But this particular play, there's no Moore comes in with one arm and just shoves the offensive lineman, pretty much shoves him into the stands, and then smashes the quarterback. This is one of the most impressive plays of the game. Derrick Moore, a true sophomore edge, coming off the line here. Look at what he does to the right tackle. See ya. Just, throws him into the ground, and, that was a pass ended up being completed, but to not be able to get a sack or an interception right there, just a single individual play. And we'll get a replay. Here's a good spot at it. One arm, boom, shoves him to the ground and then hits the quarterback. That's an amazing play. That's a guy that is in the mix for Michigan at edge, and you like to see it. There he is. I was looking at his Instagram, and they were calling him 8-ball. Derrick Moore coming off the edge. And get a better look at him after this punt by Tommy Doman, who put his leg into that one. Looked pretty good with that kick right there. We get a better look at Mr. Moore as they go to the sideline. There he is. Yeah, he could be in the NFL right now by the looks of him right there. And the way that those couple reps, he looks like he'd be a high draft pick. We were just watching him on that. Nice little sequence there from Mr. Moore. Devin Gardner and Jake Butt were impressed. Gardner was saying that particular rep reminded him of Khalil Mack. The way that he went in there. And Jake Butt, who did he say? Oh, he ran into Frank Clark, the former Wolverine, as a defensive end with his long arms and the way getting in there. High praise from a couple former Wolverines on just 2 reps there. Really one. Looking at that stiff arm getting into the backfield from Derrick Moore. Very impressive. And that's why I have him on my 5 players at number 5. Derrick Moore. At 4 is another edge guy, a new guy, one of the Magnificent 7. And the transfer from Coastal Carolina, Josaiah Stewart, heard some good things when you had Braden McGregor met the media during spring, said some nice things about Stewart. But then you see him out there, number 5, in the spring game. He ended up with 5 total tackles, registered a couple TFLs and a sack. But, he looked like he was really hard to block, and he was pinpointing that quarterback, and having Stewart and Moore in the rotation on the edge with the aforementioned Braden McGregor and Jalen Harrell. Those are four guys that you're talking about at a position that, Michigan has been producing the last 3 or 4 years. Excellent players. We could go right down the list. Hutchinson, Morris last year, Ajabo, who was at the spring game, Quiddy Pay before that. It is Michigan's had a nice run, and they've got nice depth there. That's just the four guys. They're in good hands. Yet about being able to get to the quarterback and being able to rotate Harrell, McGregor, Derrick Moore, and now Josaiah Stewart. That looks good for Michigan. And Stewart, I put him in one of the top 5 players that jumped out to me on Saturday. Kenneth Grant, I put at number 3, who also jumped out, the big fella, who is listed at 356 and 6'3". Remember talking to Jim Scarcelli, who will join us on Wednesday, and Scar, the practice that he went to, he mentioned Grant. He said, he looks bigger. He looks stronger. He looked bigger, and he looked good when he watched him at practice. Kenneth Grant looked great on Saturday. There were a couple plays. The spring game, it's a hodgepodge and a mixture of players and everything. So you can't get, although I do, and I think others do as well. Like I'm saying, we go overboard a little bit on the spring game. I know that going in, I think everybody has to give me and others a pass. You haven't seen Michigan football for 4 months, and you're not going to see them for 5 months. And so this is almost not quite in the middle, but after 4 months of football, yeah, we are going to go overboard a little bit on certain aspects. But Grant looked like, and they made a point, like they drafted him number 1 in the for the game. The coaches did, and then he played the entire game. And you would say, if you were talking about, if just you and I were talking about Grant, you'd say, well, you wonder how long a guy can be out there, how many snaps he could take because he's so big. You think about, I don't know, Jordan Davis from Georgia, Godzilla, a couple of years ago that the Eagles took in the first round, and you say, that guy's such a great player, but they called him a 2-down player because he had to go out on 3rd down and he had to rotate in a lot. He was always suck and win. And, here he is, a first-round defensive tackle and a real menace. And, Grant, they made a point to play him the entire game, and he was throwing guys around. He was collapsing the pocket. There was one, we'll get into this later on in the week, but, J.J. McCarthy, he threw his first pass wasn't so hot. He threw an interception. He would have thrown another one, or he would have really been smacked and just pulverized by Grant, who went in there and pulled up and could have just, they broke him in half. He could have put a big hit on him. He didn't. But Grant, if you're just sitting back and watching that game, you're like, this guy's a terror. This guy's a menace. This guy can't be blocked. And he looked really good out there. He's big, he's athletic, and all of that weight, like, he doesn't look like he's out of shape. He looks like if you can carry, what do they have him listed at again? 356? If you can carry 356 and look pretty good at 6'3", Grant does it. He's a monster. Very impressed with Kenneth Grant, what I saw. That's why he's one of the 5 standouts that I am listing here. Let's go to number 2. That is the freshman running back in for spring, Benjamin Hall. Blake Corum was coaching. Donovan Edwards got a lot of camera time of coaching as well on the sideline. The other true freshman, Cole Cabana out of Dexter, did not play in this game. And so you were down to, what you would, and neither did CJ Stokes, the freshman from last year. So you're looking at whatever, 3rd, 4th, 5th string running backs, but Hall flashed. Whatever you've thought of him, whatever you've were looking at with him coming in, your first glimpse of watching a guy that is, should be a senior in high school, but was playing against the big boys in the spring game. He didn't look out of place. He looked like a seasoned running back, and he's big. He's 5'11", 235. That's some good size, and you could see him. And Devin Gardner during the game said he knew it after one carry. I don't know, about a half dozen carries, and you could see, hey, true freshman looks all right. He's patient. He's setting up his blocks. He's chugging his legs, moving forward, running behind his pads. I mean, all those kind of things, which are nice. And then he had the big breakout run, which was almost a touchdown run, where he made a nice cut to the left and then showed a burst and took off down the sideline. I think he scored. It doesn't really matter. He scored a couple plays later, got in there for the touchdown. But there's no doubt. I mean, Michigan's got, even before Saturday, if you ask me, without being able to look through all of the running back rooms and everything else, if you say, who has the best running back room in the country? Michigan. I'd say Michigan with Blake Corum. I thought Michigan had the best running back room in the country last year. And so they returned the one-arm bandit and Blake Corum. And then Stokes didn't play. And now you got Hall. I didn't know about Cabana, but you got Benjamin Hall, or as Mike Hart called him, Ben Hall. And I don't know if you say he couldn't look any better. He looked great. That's fantastic. Maybe he'll be running back 3. You certainly give Stokes, we'll be in for some competition. All of that, the future looks bright. The immediate future looks bright. Michigan runs the ball 30, 35 times a game. Maybe, you never know. Remember, late in the season with both of those guys, Corum and the one-arm bandit, banged up. Michigan was playing Isaiah Gash and, that kind of stuff. So, and with Stokes getting hurt. So, you never can have enough good running backs. And, Michigan looks like they have found one. The first that we have seen of him, he looked fantastic. And then number one player of the spring game and takeaway is Payton O'Leary. And he had 6 catches for 126. This will be one that you had heard a lot about O'Leary last year during the spring, and then you didn't see him at all during the season. It was like, all right, walk on, who making some plays in the spring, nice story behind the seats. You hear those kind of things all the time. Doesn't really mean a whole lot for the team. Then, I don't know, a couple months ago, you heard that O'Leary got a scholarship from Michigan. Okay, they really do like him. And then you saw the spring game. And it wasn't just Davis Warren who was peppering him with targets late in that game that ultimately got Michigan in position in the red zone to score a touchdown with Franklin and then go to O'Leary for a 2-point conversion. He was very impressive on that drive because it was if there's crunch time to be had in the spring game, there actually was crunch time there at the end. They needed to make a play, the Mays team. And I get confused, like who was playing for the Mays and who was playing for the Blue. They needed the plays, and they were going to O'Leary. And then when they had to, with the game on the line, they had to throw it into the end zone, and he made a play. I'm not taking anything away from O'Leary. In fact, I'll go the opposite way. I'm giving him all the credit in the world. As a wide receiver, you put things in perspective. You say, all right, it was the spring game. Okay, I'm with you on that. It was a spring game. It was, it's practice, but it's spring game. I'm with you on that. And you're like, all the stars weren't playing. You had Kojo for a second, but you didn't see many of the guys here. But what more can you do if you're a player during a spring practice, if you're a wide receiver? You run your route and you get yourself open. If that's going to be the number one thing, that you're out there, that you can run a route, and that you can make yourself available by being open. He did that. If J.J. McCarthy had a sequence where you looked at him, you said, "Oh, now that's the J.J. McCarthy that you're really so excited about, and has Michigan in position to be one of the top teams in the country and one of the favorites to win it all because number 9." And it wasn't the first pass that he threw that was an ill-advised one, or the interception that lost in his hand. Those were good, but the sequence where he was out there and he was firing NFL passes was at a position out there where he's dropping back and he's looking over to the left, and they were calling it the hold shot down the sideline. John Gruden used to call it the turkey hole. It's about 15 to 20 yards down the sideline before the safety can get over there in the corner. If they're playing zone, there's that area that NFL quarterbacks, if you want to be in the NFL, you see those guys, and those guys can really, you see the arm talent from the QBs on that throw. And with McCarthy, Gardner was giddy at the one throw that he threw to the left because he was way over to the left hash and he put it out there on the line. Both times the receiver was Payton O'Leary. He ran down there. He was open. McCarthy zinged it in there and he caught the ball. And that's what happened later with Davis Warren. He was out there, little stop route. He's open. Catch. Down in the end zone, back shoulder. Catch. I'm impressed. You say, where do you put him? Do you think he can contribute in the fall? I would say, yeah. You get a guy like that. I'm not saying that he's going to be the star wide receiver. I think that might be going a little bit too far. In the rotation, given an opportunity, somebody that could, you could put under the radar as a contributor. I think all of those things are fair for O'Leary. I liked it. I'm not downgrading him because he was a walk-on or whatever. That Michigan's really stacked at wide receiver. It's about being open, getting open, being able to play, catching the ball, making plays. So check, 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 check. Oh, that's why O'Leary was the most impressive player during the spring game on Saturday, and he deserves that. Those are the 5 guys that stood out to me during the game. Number 1, Payton O'Leary. Number 2, Benjamin Hall. Number 3, Kenneth Grant. Number 4, Josaiah Stewart. And number 5, Derrick Moore. That's how I saw it with the spring game. Let's look at some of the feedback. I was interested. This is a show where give you the opportunity, if you have something on your mind that you wanted to put in there. And let's go. Antoine leads us off. He was watching a spring game. He liked Orgy, or as Devin Gardner was calling him, AO. AO in the RPO package, and Benjamin Hall, also known as Big Ben, as the 3rd running back. Ooh, Big Ben Hall. That's got a nice ring to it. Big Ben Hall. I'm taking it from you, Antoine. Big Ben Hall. I liked him. Yeah, Orgy, I think it was his first run that he was out there. He ran over to the right side, and there were 2 guys that were going to tackle him over by the sideline, and Orgy kind of stood them both up, and they went down, and he didn't. Orgy is, with all of these quarterbacks and the backups, and the quarterback was interesting on Saturday, because as much as I like J.J. McCarthy, and I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country, there were he made a lot of, I'm going to say a lot. There were 3 throws. So if I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. In fact, I ranked him as the second best quarterback, only behind the Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams going in. So I really like J.J. McCarthy. I think I'm higher on him than even most Michigan fans. But his first throw wasn't a good throw. He threw it into traffic. I'm sure when they look at the film, he'll be like, I shouldn't have thrown that one. And then, I don't know, he lost the ball and threw an interception. You don't like that either. And then there was one that, Grant could have thrown him into the ground, but he ended up throwing it anyways, and it got picked off by Makari Page. But there was a flag that came down on Miles Pollard for tripping up Darius Clemens, and that could have easily not been called if that was a real game. And the ball was already in the air. That was a bad throw by McCarthy. That could have been an interception there. So there was another one. So combine that performance with the 2 pick sixes in the spring game, and maybe it's all a good thing because McCarthy coming out feeling like he's on cloud 9, like, hey, I'm one of the best quarterbacks in the country and all this. He's a pretty even keel guy anyways, but there were 3 throws in that game that were subpar, and 2 of them, I would put all 3 as turnover worthy. 2 of them were turnovers. He got a break because there was a flag on one. The other one, you'd say, it slipped out of his hands, whatever. It was windy. It could have been rainy. Okay. And then, the first one wasn't an interception, but it damn well could have been. You wouldn't, as you're going back and they're grading them, I would guess that when they're sitting in there, they'd say, you don't throw that one. That was a bad pass. But so that's JJ. JJ's great. Yeah, he's going to be fine and all of that. But the backup quarterbacks. This just reminds me because Antoine was talking about Orji. Orji didn't throw an interception, but Jack Tuttle, there's a lot to like. He's a captain at Indiana, and looks like he's got a good arm, and he's faster and more mobile than I thought or that I knew about. You could see him running over there, but he was a turnover machine in that game. There was he had one that a penalty absorbed for him, and then he threw another, and then he fumbled. You can't turn the ball over like that. People are like, hey, did you like Warren or did you like Tuttle more? Neither. Both of them were throwing picks left and right, and the ball security was really poor from both of the quarterbacks. That was a negative out of the spring game. When it comes down, you got to take care of the ball when you're a QB, and neither of those guys did. Now there were some nice things, like I said, Tuttle's mobile, and Warren got into a rhythm, and then he made the plays down at the end, which was nice. But he can't be getting picked off either, like he was. They got to do a better job with that. That's where Orji comes into the mix. If he's taking care of the ball, and obviously he can run it like like a fullback, a freight train. And so, maybe it could be when it comes down to you get into fall ball, and then you also have those 3 games at the beginning, easy ones, where maybe the competition for the backup quarterback, is I would put it at a 3-headed monster with the who's going to be able to take care of the ball and move the team. That's what I want to know. So I almost feel like giving almost giving AO, as Gardner called him, the check mark, because the other 2 guys weren't able to take care of the ball. AJ liked Josaiah Stewart and Moore and the rest of the pass rush. They're looking good. He gives them a thumbs up. Also made a remark about Amarian Walker, who needs more work, and he's not ready yet. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that was something that you could see watching this game, spring game. KC talking about Michigan basketball. Well, let's get to that right now. He's saying it needs to be addressed. Let's address it. First, I want you to know that you can join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. I didn't put it up there, but there's a deal going on right now that you should check out. Great deal right now. Go to michigan.rivals.com. You can see, I'll have that for you tomorrow, but you can check it out today. And you want to know about recruiting, spring game stories, be on top of Michigan, left and right, everything that's going on. basketball, football, non-revenue sports. It's all there. Join up the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. KC wanting to address basketball, and over the weekend, you saw the news about Hunter Dickinson hitting the transfer portal. I thought that was very bad news for the program. Kobe Buffkin heading to the NBA. Not a surprise there, and Jett Howard had already gone. And then Michigan did pick up last week Damari Burnett out of the transfer portal. But yeah, the Dickinson loss, it's a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to overcome. And it's not just because you lose your best player. It's not because you lose the identity of the program for the last 3 years and what would have been 4 years. The guy was heading into his senior year, and he's one of the best players in the country. And, you know, when somebody goes pro like Kobe Buffkin, you say, hey, you know, you understand, you guys going pro. And maybe you're able to make the adjustment like, no, Hunter Dickinson, you know, he's just going where the grass is greener and he has a better opportunity. Certainly he is doing that. That doesn't reflect well, though, on the Michigan basketball program. If it comes down to whatever the reason was, well, he's getting more money. Well, the football program was able to keep their players, and that's been the mantra of Michigan when it comes down to name, image, and likeness. They're not getting involved at the front end where they're, you know, offering up signing bonuses. We understand that. That's going to hurt them when it comes to basketball because a lot of guys are going to be one and done, but that's the stance. But the whole thing about, hey, if you stick with Michigan, they could pay you 2-3 times of what these other, you know, rogue schools are going to be doing. Michigan will hook you up. Those who stay will be compensated unless you're Hunter Dickinson. So that doesn't look good. And, you know, he's if it's because, well, he looked at the roster and was like, this team's not doing anything. Well, that's an indictment. So none of it is good from the player, from what it means and how it reflects on the basketball program. Boom, boom, boom. They got a lot of work to dig out of it. But that was, you know, that's a lot of thumbs down when it comes to hoops. And if you don't like negativity when it comes to Michigan, just talk football. Don't worry about the basketball team. Just look forward to hockey. Let's go with something else. Scott says basketball will be fine. Yeah, well, maybe. You know, like, do you want me to put that that cartoon dog in the room where, you know, the room's on fire and he's like, everything's fine. I feel a little bit like that right now. They certainly have an opportunity to go out there and work the transfer portal and shape this team. And, you know, maybe Juwan Howard will be able to do that. But I'm very skeptical about, you know, being able to do that. So I don't really feel like Scott does, that everything's going to be fine. Who's our second string quarterback? Has Tuttle worked his way into the position? I don't think you can make a guess right now. I mean, if they were playing Saturday, if they had their game and you'd say, hey, who is quarterback 2? I think it depends who you're talking about. I mean, are we talking about a game on the road? Where's the position out on the field? Because I think Warren's a better passer. Tuttle has more experience and has some legs underneath him. And then Orji, obviously, you know, he's probably a better runner than J.J. McCarthy, or at least could be. And so, you know, it's a three-headed monster. I would think that it would be Tuttle, but the way he's turning it over, I mean, there's no – and anybody that's giving you a strong, like, this is the guy, even if it was Jim Harbaugh telling me, and I'd say, yeah, but Jim – this guy's turning it over a lot. You know, he's one pass away from being right next to you from what I've seen. Now, maybe he really took care of the ball well during the other 14 practices. And, you know, it's just when he was out there with the bright lights that, you know, he started giving it to the other team. Can't give it to the other team and expect to play. So it's an incomplete with the backup quarterbacks. Some talent there, some nice things, but turnover city, got to take care of the ball. Andres states that if you aren't excited about Michigan's football future, you need your head examined. Yeah, everybody's excited about Michigan football. They should be. There's every reason in the world to be excited about it. Everything is good. Scott says Michigan is considering bringing Ray Lewis. He will also be in charge of players off the field behavior. Little joke by Scott, I guess. Talking about Ray Lewis. AJ still likes Warren better. He would have given him the number 2 and Orgy 3 for a change of pace. They used to bring in JJ. Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on the quarterback. Payton O'Goat. There you go. That's it. Scott says, what about the kicking game? Yeah, well, Tommy Doman didn't kick any field goals, so I don't know. It looked like a little bit of there was one down by the goal line that actually we watched that, he boomed into the air and he looked like he had pretty good leg there. But I don't know about him as a field goal kicker. And we know that they have Samaha, who's a true freshman, who was not in for spring, coming in. And he would be I don't know if you put him as the odds-on favorite. They also have a walk-on, CJ McNally, a preferred walk-on. Hell, Jake Moody was a preferred walk-on. So, that's up in the air. That's not going to be decided until I would say October. Well, Michigan's got 2 late games with in September of Rutgers and at Nebraska. So at least the first 3 games, there's going to be competition there. So that's what's going on when it comes down to the kicking game. Account 22 thinks Isaiah Stewart, he plays for the Pistons. Josaiah Stewart is a James Houston 2.0 clone. Account 22 talking about lacrosse. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his background as being a lacrosse player, but the best thing that I can say about lacrosse is that the greatest football player, certainly the best running back of all time, Jim Brown, was a lacrosse player. So if you're a lacrosse player, I don't hold that against you. Not when Jim Brown was a excellent lacrosse player. Andre says this defense will be Michigan's best under Jim Harbaugh. Well, that's a lot. You're saying a lot there, but who am I to say that you're wrong, Andres? Last year with Michigan losing Ajabo and Hutchinson and Dax Hill, and I thought it was going to be more on the offense to score more points and that the defense wasn't going to be as good as the year before, but they were better. And so from what I see here, I think what you say could be true. And yeah, Ohio State, I'm sure watching that tape, there's no more Ohio State, feeling great, feeling like they got the upper hand in this rivalry. I'm sure they're watching that thing and, okay, this thing is on. Richard Smart, he knew that Josaiah Stewart looked good. He sure did. There's no doubt about that. I don't know about this. If Orgy stays and develops, he can be better than JJ in time. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but that's quite a statement. But hey, that's all right. People are excited about the defense. Andre's, doubling down on Orgy's potential. All right about it. That's it. KC doesn't think JJ's that good. I don't know why you would say that. If JJ didn't have the game that he had against Ohio State, so I guess Michigan could have won that game without JJ, playing an A+ game. He did play an A+ game, so trying to take JJ, but I'll play along. JJ doesn't play an A+ game. He doesn't throw the ball down the field or make the great runs down at the goal line. So I'm going to take, that run down at the goal line and I'm going to take the long pass to the what was it 75-yarder to Kojo down the field. The other big pass that he had to Colston Loveland at the second half, down the field. So no downfield passing, and so that was something that was hanging over McCarthy. But then in the biggest game, he was good. But so if he didn't have that, and then he had the 2 turnovers, we might be looking at, well, there's a question about whether he can throw the ball down the field. That would be there. I don't have that question about him. I don't have a question about his running ability. I think he is a great running quarterback. I think that you see him make those throws that he threw to O'Leary. Those are NFL throws. He looked great on that. So then you're talking about the turnovers. Well, let's look back to last year. Now, I don't know, this is another game where you're putting stuff over here and putting it over there, but if I just put the semifinal over here, there it is. It's over there. McCarthy threw 3 picks last year. McCarthy threw one in the Big Ten title game. He had maybe the longest time that he had all year long with the ball in his hand after it was snapped against Purdue. Snapped, he was moving around, he had so much time, he rolled over the right, he had more time, he broke out a blanket, brought in a table, ate a sandwich, he had that much time, and then he threw it down the field and he had it intercepted in the Purdue game. 3rd interceptions. Second one was against Penn State in the first half. What was he doing? He was rolling out to the right, and then did he throw the ball on the ball, or did he get the ball hit? It was kind of fluky from what I remember. I'd have to go back and look at it exactly, but I remember saying that I thought it was a fluke. Scarcelli did not think so. I thought it was a fluky interception. Ended up going right to the Penn State guy, and he took it the other way. And, that went down as a pick, right? And then the other one the first one was at Indiana, down in the red zone, threw the ball into the end zone, had Roman Wilson, tried to stick it in there, and the Indiana player moved in front and picked that one off. Don't like interceptions, but down inside your 20 rather than on your side of the 50, there's interceptions and then there's interceptions. That was an interception. He really took care of the ball fabulously all year long until the Fiesta Bowl. And I don't know what that was. Good plays, staring down the receiver, falling in love with your arm, being a little too loosey-goosey, all of those things with McCarthy. How do you learn from that? Making those long throws, being in love with your arm, but also respecting the defense, maturing at the position is what I'm going to go with. And then the 3 passes that I didn't like on Saturday. The first one, the interception, and then the second interception that they threw a flag on. I didn't really like any of those throws. Learning from those. I mean, he's still best returning quarterback in the Big Ten, one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country. He's got that, but he can be better. So this part about not that good, compared to, I'm just going to have to, KC, throw that out. He had a tremendous year last year. He played great against Ohio State. Michigan won the Big Ten. And he answered the biggest question, and that was, could he get the ball down the field and get the downfield passing game clicking? And the answer was yes. And even though he threw the 2 pick sixes against TCU, which were horrible and were 2 of the big 5 plays that cost Michigan, he also made some outstanding throws in that game as well. So this particular statement is when you say JJ not that good. If you don't want to call him like the greatest ever, or you don't think he's great, or maybe you don't think he's in the top 5 of returning quarterbacks, I can get you in there. But this one, I don't think there's any. I think you'd want to reword that, or I think maybe your fingers got something like that. I'm with you on that. We'll take a few more here. And people kind of feel like me when it came down to about JJ. And, I think I'm saying what everybody else is. Casey is going to the last game. He was part of losing that game. I'll give you that, KC. There were 5 plays. And the 5th one was that Quentin Johnson 76-yard touchdown that DJ Turner had him on a 3rd and 7 in his sights to tackle him short of the line of gain. I think Michigan wins the game if Turner's able to make that tackle. And it wasn't like, he had him. It was Johnson here, Turner there, and he had to come up, make the play. He wasn't able to. Johnson is going to be picked in the 1st round, maybe the first wide receiver in the draft later this month, was able to obviously not get tackled, went for the 1st down and went for 76 yards. Michigan makes that play. I think they win the game, but they didn't. That was one play. The 2 pick sixes I'll give you. I would also put down Mullings' fumble at the goal line, and then the Philly not so special. Now, maybe the Philly not so special, JJ should have audibled out of that when he saw that TCU was in a zone. So you might want to put that on him. So you could say, hey, that's 3 plays. But I don't know. I can't say that. I don't know what he was looking at or what went down there. But obviously the 2 picks is something. Yeah. Slander is a little go ahead, because everybody takes the quarterback position, and I'll tell you this: if McCarthy puts Michigan, he plays like he did last year, this year, Michigan has a chance to be back into the semifinal. So I feel pretty good. Let's see some more feedback. Westro. All I'll say is that between how absolutely lights out JJ looked in spot duty in 21 and DJ sermons on Monday, I don't understand anything about these sermons on Monday. So you kind of lost me there. So sorry, Westro. I want to understand what you were talking about. Ben Hall looking good. Yeah, I'm with you all on that. Let's see. People talking about Devin Gardner on the broadcast, maybe. That's what he's talking about. I see some people talking about Shane Morris. Yeah, I think we're getting off target here going into it. So that's what I thought. Tomorrow, we'll go through more. We'll look back on Saturday. And then I talked to Jim Scarcelli, who's going to have some film and look through a few things as well on Wednesday. We'll continue reacting to what we saw on Saturday. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, subscribing, hitting that thumbs up button. If you're somebody that listens to the podcast, love the comments, subscriptions, all of those things, subscribing to it. Do all of those things. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the weather. If you're here in Michigan, it's awesome. I'm going outside right now and enjoy it.